During lockdown, I've managed to get a lot more reading done than I usually would. I probably should have been spending more time writing my dissertation and revising for my upcoming finals, but reading has been a useful form of escapism and comfort. Also, evenings that would have ordinarily been spent watching Love Island with friends after a long day in the library have now been spent reading on my sofa, not that I haven't been watching my fair share of trash TV alone. I'll mention the first 4 books that I read in lockdown in this video, and the others in the next one. The first book I read I actually finished a few days before the lockdown announcement, but after most people had been told to leave college and the majority of my friends had gone home. I took Middle England by Jonathan Coe out of the library back in November and did start reading it over the Christmas holiday, but didn't get further than the second chapter. I restarted it at the end of March and read it in a couple of days. It was an easy read following interconnected characters in England between 2010 and 2018 and the political events in that time. It was slightly different, being mainly set in Birmingham rather than the usual London, but having looked over the blurb I realised I've forgotten many of the storylines. Mainly, it felt like a book about Brexit that wasn't really saying anything new about Brexit. Next, I read a book that I bought from the market a while ago, possibly last year, and that was Red Dust Road by Jackie Kay. I absolutely loved reading this. Red Dust Road is Jackie Kay's memoir. She writes about growing up as the adopted black daughter of white parents in Scotland and her search for her Scottish birth mother and Nigerian birth father. I don't know how to describe this book other than joyful. She makes every person she talked about come alive, and I can't recommend it enough. I've read a couple of her short stories, but will definitely be picking up more books by her in the future. One of the books I took out of the library in my mini haul just before it closed was Ordinary People by Diana Evans. This was shortlisted for the Women's Prize last year, so I'd heard a lot about it and had been meaning to get around to it. I really sped through this book, reading it in a couple of days. It follows 2 couples with young children in London whose relationships are falling apart, and all 4 of them are unhappy with their situation in life. Some people found this book depressing, and looking back it is quite bleak, but I was sucked in by the characters. You really get to know the characters in this and understand their motives and worries. My only criticism with the book was a supernatural storyline that becomes much more prominent towards the end of the book, and for me felt out of place and didn't add anything to the story. I clearly enjoyed her writing style though, so would pick up another one of her books. The last book I'll mention in this wrap-up is one I listened to on audiobook, The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. I mainly listen to this while cooking as there is no one in the kitchen to talk to or cook with at the moment, and the hob needs to be turned back on every 7 minutes. This lasted me a long time as it was 19 hours of audio, but I enjoyed listening to it every day. The book follows the story of Mary Bennet, the least liked of the Bennet sisters from Pride and Prejudice, from before the events of Pride and Prejudice, during and afterwards. I'm not sure if I would have got through the book if I'd just been reading it, as it has a very slow and sad start. Eventually the story picks up and Mary becomes a much more interesting character later on, so I recommend as an audiobook to listen to while doing something else, such as cooking or knitting. I hope you're safe and well. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or if you're planning on picking any of them up now.